talk. Now I would like to invite Dr. Ananda Siddhana. Ma'am, your profile was already read, so kindly be a part of the sitting.
So, it's working. So basically, now today, all the distinguished leaders, excellencies, and colleagues, I am grateful to have the chance to talk at ISKCAMA Global Convention about the humanizing systems, because ISKCAMA, what it means is basically compassion and empowering everyone through creativity and equality. It is about creating an impact. So that is what ISKCAMA is. So that's why we are the one who have to change the system. And today, I would like, the world does not need a new leader, and world does not need any new technology, but they need a compassionate leader. A leader who is compassionate and can strengthen his empathy and make other leaders equal. So that is the true leadership, that how many leaders you make, and that is Abnash ma'am doing that, creating more leaders. So I am grateful to her, and definitely my topic is healing minds to humanizing systems. So I am a psychiatrist, and I started from healing minds of the people. But during the journey of life, I had to heal my own self, because human beings are not immune. Every human being is vulnerable to the stressors of the outside. So, and textbooks cannot teach you the relationships, marriages, divorce, nothing. So life teaches you everything. So while healing minds, life taught me many things, and the one thing was imprinted on me, that the only measure of a character of a person is the kindness and the empathy. No title, I believe these titles and labels are all for jars, not people. And I don't believe that when they said your info has been read, so it doesn't matter, because I am Ananda Siddhana, and doctor. So now today we are here like this too. So I would like to say we should start the healing mind. Then I got the UN fellowship, and I learned about how to redesign the systems, because I have seen the suffering of the people also since childhood. I have been seeing, because 43 years of practice of my father, he has been removing the stigma. And he has taught us only one thing, that compassion is the empathy, and gender equality. I think it was a norm in our house, and we could not imagine a world where gender equality does not exist. So mental health nowadays, first of all, the UN SDG says that by 2030 we should achieve all the goals, in which mental health also comes. But still we are talking about mental illness instead of mental wellness. It was the time to talk about wellness. And mental health is not only the human infrastructure. It builds the nations. It builds the cities. It builds the economic growth. It is a geopolitical structure. Everything is mental health. Because if you cannot protect the cortex and the mind of the individuals, how can you protect the outside and the infrastructure of the country? The only country that will develop where they have the brain capital saved. And so the education, that also is, when you invest in education, so start beginning with investing in the emotional economy. Instead of teaching them the prime minister, who is the prime minister, who is the tax minister, who is the health minister, teach them what is pain, joy, what is being anger. So because feelings have no gender, and feelings don't change, they are what make us human. That is what to be taught, and prime minister will anyways change by the time children increase. So education, then work. At work also, everyone has a workplace stress, burnout, even the leaders get, and the work. So it should be compassionate, and DEI, which is just in the policies, papers, and policies does not mean anything until they remain in the papers. So it's our duty to take them from papers to action, turning awareness to action. So that is the work, and equity and peace, climate and governance. So these are the things which, so mental health, I don't think it is just one individual's mental health. It is the program basically, and it's the operating condition of human system and the whole world system. And these are the numbers not about just the illness. These are the geopolitical numbers and all, because if a nation has people living, 970 million people living with mental disorder, how can it develop? Growth of the nation depends on that, because a mind is the thing which can help you think, then help you judge better. So you have, then 25% are suffering. Here also, everyone is sitting here with a smile, but I always say that we all are wearing a mask, and every face has a story hidden inside, and there is no bigger pain than the carrying an untold story inside. So that pain is there with everyone, and we are just the highly interconnected world, and happiest faces on Facebook, LinkedIn, IGC conferences, and otherwise I'm feeling empty and loneliest generation. So that is the thing. And then 12 billion working days also, because there is a lot of work stress, burnout, and these are so the question is no longer whether mental health belongs in the development, but it is whether development can happen without the mental health, whether a nation can develop without having a mental health facilities. No. So it's about basically from treating illness to designing the conditions from the well-being. So if you design the condition for the well-being, that is mind, and the leader should have values, decision, and empathetic, and he should not have this thing that I will only be the leader. The leader is the one who actually gives the legacy to others and taps the unlocked potential in a person which they also don't know that it is there. And institutions, they should believe in the growth of both men, women, even the workers, even HR and everybody. There should be equality and everyone has human rights. And community, nowadays we are so lonely, everybody has just Alexa and Siri to talk to. And parents are suffering from empty nest, and because children fly away from the nest and they become empty, there is so much loneliness. And we are all interconnected, but still in the digital desert. We were meant to be raised in a tribe, not in a digital desert. And so community and the connection, the power of human connection can never be replaced. That has to come back. And the SDGs will only be achieved if we all are healthy mentally. So humanizing the system is prevention at the level of the design. If you start humanizing, if you start teaching children from the day one, who taught that boy cannot cry? Even mother, if a boy comes crying, the mother starts, why are you crying? You are a boy. Who said that? So it should not, because feelings have no gender. And they also have equal stress, equal pain, anxiety. Even after divorce, men also feel the pain. So it's not like only women feel the pain. Even at workplace, there are many things. They also feel stress, financial. It's just the thing is they don't speak up. As in we have मर्द को दर्द नहीं होता कि men cannot, तो मर्द रो नहीं सकता. So that is the issue. And last year the maximum calls to suicide helpline were from the youth male. And so for this I have developed a HEAL framework. How can we heal the nation? To heal the nation, the memorable, it should be from awareness to action. That is human-centered leadership, where empathy should be the part of the leadership. Compassion, then evidence-driven action. It should not be like only what I think is right, or what you think is right, or what my father thinks is right, but it should be evidence-based, but still everyone should get a chance to discuss, as everyone has a viewpoint. So there is no harm in agreeing to disagree, but discussion, healthy discussion, can only lead to the progress. Then there are adaptive systems, build the institutions and the team that learns. and which will create the lasting impact. So this is healing minds from humanizing systems and advancing SDGs. And while during last 2 years I have developed these frameworks. So first of all, the FIFA, how many of you watched? FIFA World Cup. So what happened on the last or second last day? There was some player. What happened? Like some stress was there. Yeah. So we have spent billions of dollars in just making the stadium's infrastructure, but they never thought like what will be happen to the minds of the people sitting inside the stadium and in the playing also, fans also, and even players also go through Olympic slump, go through a lot of stress, burnout. The higher the player's profile is, the higher pressure he has, the performance pressure. They are also human, they also break out. Virat Kohli has come with it. Lionel Messi's documentary explains all the mental health problems he has gone through. Then there have been times that the coach of the team didn't tell the player that his father expired. Like that is so, it is his independent decision that whether he want to go or he want to play, but he was not informed. So it is like emotional wellness and the empathy that is to be brought in the stadium. And then the minds of the people who are watching, first of all, the pressure on the parents. Social media creates a lot of pressure that a child wants to buy this, buy that, and the tickets are soaring high, even if a child does not know what a football is, but just because of the influencer thing, they want it. And another, every kind of people go to the stadium. They can get a panic attack. Then they have a neurodivergent students, neurodivergent children. They need psychosocial sanctuaries and calm zones. So for that, I had made a full plan for FIFA Stadium, which is now going to be for Women World Cup. We are going to take. And so because minds should be safe, as in Bangalore, you must be remembering there was a incident in 4th of July that 11 people died in a Chinnaswamy Stadium just because of mob psychology. The crowd could not be controlled. So what's the game? They had come happy, and we don't want that. We should protect the individual minds first. Then LGBT community is also there, but sports washing is huge. That is a huge economy, that geopolitical trick they use. So that was one of my projects. Then Aurora Mind. Aurora, can anyone say anything? Like, actually, I like to interact. That why I have made my website also like Aurora and everything, like Northern Lights. Why? Nash ma'am, you can tell.
Well, I think when you set up a system and you send it to me, you want people to engage with you. You don't just want to be a talker, you want to get other people to give you an idea. So I suppose that's the reason you really set up.
So I made it a setup because actually I healed myself under the Northern Lights first of all. And that time I was thinking that if we can embrace the human colors of Northern Lights, I spent 5 lakhs. We go out and see the rainbow. Then anxiety, depression, every person is a color of a human mind. Why are we not embracing that? And LGBT, they are colors of human sexuality. Why don't we embrace that? So it is about that, because I believe we should embrace all. So that is why it is Aurora Mind. That everyone, autism, neurodiversity, depressions, they all are colors of human mind, and they can be treated. First of all, labels are not used. I rarely call them patients. I call clients. Like even my dad has taught me that to call by name, never call a patient. And the institute where I was taught, I was like, it is ingrained in me that the person is a client, not a patient. And then the dignity dialogues. It is basically because nobody is there to talk. So listening circles are important. Nowadays, very many groups are coming up. Last time I had come here, so many women they stay empty at home, housewives. So kitty party was actually a stress buster, because there you go and at least talk about what's happening wrong. But males cannot have that kitty party also, because males just talk about which beer has come in the market, or which mobile or which car has come in the market. They don't talk about what's happening in the home. So that is the thing. So dignity dialogues, that is, have a dialogue with everyone, but dignity is important for everybody. Never judge, listen. And media and mental health, that is my most important, my favorite topic, that media is a tool that shapes the society. It has the power to shape the society. Whoever controls the media controls the narrative. And nowadays, anyways, there is who is raising our children? It's only the social media, not the parents, not the teachers. So the media, there was a tale of Aghasura, that Aghasura snake in Mathura, Vrindavan, that he's eating up everybody. So similarly, technology is eating up our children. So we have to save that and start emotional regulation classes. We cannot control fully, but still we can manage. We should be friends with our children first. Then in media, whatever is portrayed is society. Even being 40 years old, I was very impressed by Kabir Singh and Ranbir Kapoor in Animal. But imagine if that Ranbir Kapoor comes in the life will be hell. So if you portray the men as, so it's time to bring back those chocolate boys and redefine the manhood, and tell the people that vulnerability is strength. Dear Zindagi is such a beautiful case study that no psychiatrist can also break the stigma so better. That it says that कि हमारी बॉडी का पार्ट है ना, फ्रैक्चर होता है तो हम सबको बुलाते हैं, कोई पता लेने नहीं आया. Nobody has come to ask us fracture as there or heart attack, but if somebody asks for depression, they are like, oh, why? It is also part of the body. And Chichore movie, so these movies, they act as a Papageno effect, that is, they decrease the suicidal rates, they decrease the crimes if shown properly. So responsible media and responsible storytelling is important. So yesterday, as a Wiki National President, I have released a position statement about responsible media handling, and that every media house should have a mental health advisor. Because humans, it's all about human stories in the end. And this decision was taken because recently a psychiatrist died by suicide, but guidelines say that you cannot release the picture. Everywhere pictures were released, and the questions were psychiatrist's daughter, but nobody cared like what stresses she was going through. So that is not the thing to sensationalize. You cannot increase the pain of the family. So for that 2019 guidelines we had given, and now it is a position statement, it has been released. And then men's mental health, I always say it is my dream to see that men can cry from India Gate to Gateway of India to Times Square to London Bridge to Eiffel Tower to Burj Khalifa. The day men can cry will be normalized, gender equality will come. Oh, of course, because men also go through pain and they suffer in silence, and in the end what will happen? Of course, there will be, if you keep on shaking a beer bottle, in the end it will blast. So similarly happens with men. In the end they blast. So there it is very, very important, and no one was in favor of making men's mental health committee. Like even psychiatrists, many women psychiatrists, even male psychiatrists, that why men's mental health committee is needed. But we cannot spell mental health only without men. And a woman is incomplete without man. How much independent she is. It is like feminism being taken in wrong sense, because caregiving is a woman's role, and so it is not battle of sexes. It's about the battle against patriarchy, not the sexes and the stereotyped society. So men's mental health committee I have made, and women's mental health is very, very important, especially because she goes through women hormone mental health. It plays a very big role because a woman goes through all 9 Devi's roop in the time of due to the menstruation cycle. One day she will be angry, one day she will be clingy, one day you will be the best boyfriend, one day you will be the worst husband, and you don't know what's happening. And imagine she also doesn't know. So that's like, because women's mental health is important in menstruation, then in the motherhood, in perimenopause and menopause. Other times it's gender equality is there, but that time every workplace should have compassion, and this leave and all should be there, because you don't know how much havoc the storm they cause. And behavioral science policy, that evidence to policy we have to take, of course, and human connection and human-centered AI. Yes, yeah, Lipika ma'am was talking about that. So I always say that my project, actually they gave me AI governed project to map the mental health problems and solutions of rural, urban in areas of India and South Asia. So the first question I asked her, why AI governed? First of all, mental health is AI governed. It cannot be. Mental health cannot be without empathy, and no machine, no advanced technology can replace the human touch. So I changed the project to human-led AI assist, because we have created AI. It's not like we are, but the thing is happening, we are becoming slaves of AI. And there is a quotation also, like, the biggest danger of AI is not that it is taking up human jobs, but the biggest danger is we are becoming artificially intelligence, and it is taking and losing our empathy. So that's why I made the project into human-led AI assist, and that is like in India and every country I have seen that religious leaders play a very big role, and faith healers. And to achieve SDGs, to achieve mental wellness, we have to take their help. That screening should be done at religious places, because people spend crores of rupees there, but they will not give 100 rupees to a doctor because of the stigma. So if we start educating only there and educating them, and they speak, imagine how many people, if Baba Ramdev starts speaking about mental illness, mental wellness and therapy, then how many people will listen? But we are speaking, nobody will listen. So that is the important thing, and that was the project. That project was already started by my dad and Dr. Dhanesh Gupta from Singapore, and they have unchained around 140 patients who were chained like animals. And so mainly that is the empathy lab. Now I have just started a blog, basically, that is the empathy lab. So because staying human is the key. And mental health is in all the SDGs. Like, nothing can exist without mental health, first of all. You can have partnerships only if you have a good relationship, communication skills. You have to have trust. You can have resilient cities. Until you have the resilient and healthy minds, how can you have resilient cities? It is about healthy minds and hopeful future, healthy beginnings. So similar health, well-being, everything is about this. And so what does a humanizing system looks like? That in schools it should be belonging before the ranks. Anyways, no, I thought time over. So and then the psychological safety before burnout, dignity before diagnosis, and governance, trust before compliance, schooling, safety, connection. I will read a poem that's better. 9, that is listen, measure, redesign, partner, and fund. These are the a leader can do, and the future will depend only. I will read a poem, just 3 lines. That I had written for our conference, Unshackling Psychiatry. because my belief is that mental health should not stay in the clinics. It is time to take the mental health to corporate, to theaters, to every place, religious places, to the arena, to stadium, and to community and school, everywhere. So that was the unshackling psychiatry theme, and I had written a poem, and so because it was about humanizing, so I just thought. So the key is not about the, basically it is to unshackle the psychiatry and move beyond the clinics to every region. So mainly it means that from diagnosing and labeling to understanding, from being a doctor to being a human, from fixing the broken to fueling them with purpose, turning their pain into purpose instead of fixing the broken. And from hiding the pain to naming the feelings, and from hiding behind to healing in spotlight. And from patient files to human stories this time. It's not about the time to take story like history like a patient. And then humans start telling a story, emotions connect us and nations also get connected. Even Modi ji recently in the Indonesian summit told kuch kuch hota hai, to bahut kuch hota hai, that is like SRK can connect all the countries. It was about the cinema, that is invest in the orange economy, creative economy, and the very big summit is also going on, NFDC and WAVES, because when we start investing in the art and healing, that can definitely bring the change. And similarly, the Jena Declaration is there of UNESCO, which believes that now policies have not made any change. Since long they are there. So when does the change begin? It begins with one person at a time. It cannot begin from the top level. So from the bottom level, one person at a time. So the Jena Declaration is about that, and using arts, humanities, movies, every kind of art to achieve SDG and raise awareness. So that is the main goal. So basically it's just in the end I will say, from illness to wellness, from institutional care to community care. That person should not go to institute only, mental wellness should be there. And from wisdom of the old, and give the wings to the young generation. Wisdom of old cannot be forgotten, but wings to the young generation are to be given now. And from being doctor to being human, and from local address to universal access, because now everything is in cloud, Google Cloud. So from local to global and cloud. Thank you.